Hi again. Well, this is where we're going to quite literally shift into another gear completely. If you've done all of the groundwork so far, this next step is where the real difference is going to be in this process as opposed to other processes. I called this process the dream realization technique for a very obvious reason. I want you to realize the dreams that you have. I want you to make real the goals that you have, the targets, the things you want to achieve. I want you to have the future history that was alluded to by Muhammad Ali. And I can't prove that this is how he did it. I'm sure it wasn't how he did it, but this is a model of how I believe how he did it. We mentioned several videos ago that simply writing down a goal doesn't work, and that simply visualizing a goal or making affirmations just doesn't work for many people. In fact, for some people, affirmations can be demotivational, and so can visualizations, because people have some rather interesting ideas about what a visualization is. I've worked with meditation and relaxation groups for a number of years, and when we do the kind of round robin conversation about what people were experiencing, we have a big mix of people, some of whom say they didn't see or picture anything, which is fine because they had a different kind of experience. But then we get the other people that have this Spielberg-esque recount of internal visualizations of vast plains and wonderful creatures, which they may well have had. Um, and that's fine. But those people who find the visualization process difficult are often demotivated by that idea. And of course, if I said to you, just visualize your goal right now, well, you may have stated it, it may be measurable, but actually, what do you do with it then? You may well have created a vision board. I think a vision board is a really clever way of bringing ideas to fruition, because they show images around you that relate to your desired future. Right. Let's start here a little bit with this idea of desired future. It is your future history we're now going to create. And well, you're going to create it for yourself. I'm just going to give you a few tools and ideas to get there. Shifting is one of these tools. Now, we experienced the process of shifting way back in the first boot camp when we talked about internal states and ideas of what it was like to connect to a positive resource. But it's this technique in its full form that we're going to explore right now. In the book and in the video, the first video, the big video, if you like, the uh, that was that preceded the boot camps, we talked about the fact that the mind creates representations of the world out there by creating a map of the reality based upon its sensory information. That was a big mouthful, and I'll slow it down. The world inside your head is a representation of the world in the real world out there, and the representation is based upon your sensory experiences. We know that conservatively there are 21 known human senses, there are possibly 33 known human senses, but we're going to focus on 4 key areas of map building in your head. That wonderful phrase, the map is not the territory, which is about the idea that what we picture inside our head is not the real world, it's a map of the real world. Okay. In neurolinguistic programming and in certain forms of other cognitive therapies, we talk about possible jigsaw pieces that make up the key elements of any representation of any reality you have in your head. And the 4 jigsaw pieces are what you see, what you hear, what you feel, and what you are thinking. It's a kind of level above the direct experience. It's called metacognition. It's the level of how you think about what you were doing. So if I said to you, think about the last holiday you had, you could describe that to me in terms of what you saw, what you heard, and what you felt, and what you thought. Now, those see, hear, feel, think are known as modalities, but each modality has a different sub-modality. This is as technical as it's going to get, by the way. So a submodality is a quality. So there is a quality of what you can see, there's a quality of what you can hear, there's a quality of what you can feel, and there's a quality of what you can think. In terms of the qualities of what you see, there are some obvious things like, is it colour or black and white, moving or still? And these are the things that you will explore in the workbook, and we started to explore a little bit way back in Bootcamp 1. The video, so the visual qualities can also be, were you looking through your own eyes? We call that associated. Or were you looking as if you were looking at yourself, which is dissociated? We can talk about colours in terms of their sharpness, their focus. Is this making sense? These are the submodalities or the qualities. If we talk about hearing, we can talk about the tone, the volume, the loudness, the intensity, the pitch, whether it was voices, what kind of voices, how many voices, and those are some of the qualities of sound. In terms of feelings, well, we've got the sensation, i.e., what you touch in terms of the textures around you, but you've got the emotional feelings as well, which are often the ones we work with more. And these have an intensity, they have a descriptor, quality, which could be in terms of temperature, texture, smoothness, softness. These are qualities of things that we touch, but there also can be qualities of things that we feel. More about that in a moment. And then thinking, well, that's got qualities too, hasn't it? It's the kind of where is the self-talk in your head? Odd question, but is it left or right or up or down or back or forward? Is your self-talk full of critical words, shoulds, must, oughts, or is your self-talk full of, yeah, give it a go, give it a go, this is good, this is good? Are they supportive thoughts or negative thoughts? And you will have them. And we all have one of these as possibly our lead system, our lead modality, but we all are able to access each one of them, some better than others. But what if I said to you, let's imagine you are being the most assertive person you can be in any situation. You may never have felt assertiveness, so I can say to you, can you think of somebody who would be assertive? And can you describe to me, and here's the real power behind this, how you see them standing, how you see them breathing, what you see them wearing, what you see their body language would be. We're starting to create a model of an imagination. Um, in terms of hearing, what's the tone of their voice? What words, what specific words are they using? How are they speaking? Are they fast, slow speaking? Is there a kind of an emphasis on certain words? We could imagine that. We could imagine how they're feeling. Now, immediately, if somebody's been assertive, you might sense that they're feeling assertiveness. So, okay, how do you imagine assertiveness to feel? Does assertiveness have a temperature? Does assertiveness have a texture, have a colour for you? And then what would they be thinking? Well, if they're being assertive, they'll probably be thinking things like, well, I'm going to make my point here. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to listen, but I'm also going, the thought processes are important too. Now, the shifting technique I use a lot in all kinds of therapy and approaches, and we're taking just an element of that to apply to your future history. So we need to tread a little bit carefully with this because I want you to apply this to a vision of your future. So let's take Muhammad Ali as an example. He said this himself. In many, many of his quotes, he talks about the fact that he gets through the hard work, the application, because he creates the future history, the film of his success. He sees himself dancing under the lights. And it's not just a simple, I see myself, it's a question of he sees the gesture, he sees his posture, he imagines the way that his muscles are tensed, he sees himself dancing, he sees other people watching him, he hears the sound of the crowd, maybe the sound of the light bulbs, but he hears the sound of other people's affirmation and control. He hears the sounds of other people's supports and shouts and hoops and wahs and hurrahs. How does he feel? Well, he feels that elation of success perhaps, and where does he feel that, where in his body is he feeling that, and then his thought process, it's reaffirmation of I am the greatest. And he's had those words in his head before he started the fight, those rhymes that have been saying, you're going to go down in three. I am the fastest. I am the meanest. I am the person who floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. He's had all those affirmations going around in his thought processes, but he's heard them as well, and he's heard other people say them back to him. Is this making sense? He is created, and you are going to create. If you do this exercise, you are going to create an empowering future history that is like you in your future. And it will be so compelling, so motivational, that all those difficult things that you may have to do, the effort you may have to put in, will suddenly become worthwhile because you have that image of the future you. Now, if we unpick the see, hear, feel, think in a little bit more detail, there is one quality that's always present, and that quality is of location. Where do you see the image? That is physically in space. If I said to you, pull an image to your mind now of you brushing your teeth, do you get a sense of where that image is? Is it in front of your head? Did it seem to come from left to right, from back to front? Or is it in the middle of your head? There is a sense of location for that. If you've got a location for that and you're looking through your own eyes, that is, you are in the image, is the picture dead in front of you? Yeah, is it color or black and white? Is it moving or still? There is a location to the sound quality of that modality. Where's the sound coming from? Is it surround sound? Is it from every direction? Is it from one direction? What's the quality in terms of your feelings? Where in your body are you feeling this particular emotion? And lastly, where in your head are you hearing the sounds, which is the oddest one of all of them, really? Because when I often ask that question to people who haven't really thought about it before, they look at me as if I've gone slightly nuts, and then they go, and then they'll indicate, oh, it's over. I'm thinking. In fact, notice your own body language when you describe things. When you actually, when you see something, do you look up? Are you going, yeah, 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 I can picture it. Yeah, there's the location of what you picture. Yeah, 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 I can hear it. There's the location of the hearing. Or I can hear it, it's too busy. What about where you feel it's here? I can feel it just about here. Now look, if I feel it here, my hand is open. Yeah? Maybe the hand being open actually says the feeling is spread rather than the hand being closed where the feeling is closed. Is this making sense? When you say location of the head, people go, I don't know, let me think about it. You're telling yourself. So be aware of this stuff. Please be aware of it, because when you're aware of it, you can start to notice the location of things and where these um, elements that make up your total experience exist within your neurology. And in fact, if you don't know, make it up. Imagine where it is. Because the crucial thing about this is the neurology here doesn't know the difference between what you make up, what you dream, what you fantasize, what your memories are. They have the similar qualities. It's just a subjective knowledge that you have that something existed or not, was real or not, is a memory or not. And the fact is that every one of those things, even the reality you're experiencing right now, is a construction based upon your sensory input. And when you have a memory, it's a construction based on your past knowledge of your sensory input, your awareness of your sensory input. So if you create empowering visions of the future, they are your future histories. When you do the exercise in the booklet, you're going to be encouraged to go through that whole process of seeing yourself achieving the goal, seeing yourself receiving the accolades, the rewards, seeing yourself, I don't know, counting the money if it's a money thing. You're going to see yourself actually succeeding and getting the certificate, whatever it is. You're going to hear people talk about you and their words they would say to you. You're going to feel how it would feel for you, and you're going to think how it would think, how you'd be thinking at the time, what thoughts would be supporting that. Now, I want to go back to the feelings for a little bit. just for a short while to get you really focused on this idea. When we feel something, we can describe it in terms of the qualities of color, temperature. So if I said to you, what does love feel like to you? You may immediately go, well, you've already told me, therefore love is in this location. And it's a spreading thing. But if I said to you right now, where do you feel love? What color is the feeling of love? What temperature is the feeling of love? What texture is the feeling of love? What qualities does the feeling of love have inside of you? And if you know and you can describe those things, the next time you need to access that feeling of love, you can think of the colors, the textures, the shapes, and the location that love was for you. And by recalling that, you start to get into that space. Remember that breathing physiology, internal state, performance thing we did ages ago? Great. So once you start to breathe into where love is for you, how you're breathing when you feel love, how you there, isn't it? Yeah. You can access it. I worked with a client 7 months ago who had agoraphobia. She wouldn't go out of the house, and she had a cluster of other symptoms as well, but wouldn't go out of the toilet because she had a dog, and the dog basically was quite an interesting space to be in because she couldn't take the dog and there wasn't a garden. So we talked to her about what resources she would need to go in, because I need to feel comfortable and I need to feel confident. So I asked her to imagine comfortable and confident. And we created a visualization, a see, hear, feel, think visualization of comfortable and confidence. And one of the things that came out was for her, confidence, she could imagine it as green, fluffy Wellingtons. Why? I've no idea, but that's what she came up with as we described it. And you go with what comes up when you do this. She imagined sort of the comfort being actually a comfy blanket, but it was a bright yellow comfy blanket that she wrapped round herself. And when she talked about this bright yellow comfy blanket, she also imagined sunflowers. That's a really nice bright image, isn't it? So I got her to think about the the power of the green fluffy wellies and the power of the sunflower yellow comfy blanket. And she spent several moments just closing her eyes and thinking about these things and how confidence felt to her and how comfort felt to her. Between the first session and the second session, I had a phone call saying that she'd managed to go outside. And I said, great, what did you do? I imagined I was putting on my green fluffy Wellingtons and wrapping myself in my yellow sunflower coloured blanket, and I felt confident and comfortable. I took the dog for a walk. And I said to her, well, when was this? When did you? And she only happened to take the dog for a walk at a time there was a major festival in the street where she lived. So she not only overcame her anxiety about going out, she overcame her anxiety sufficient enough to take her out into a packed festival street so she could take a dog for a walk over at the park. This stuff works. You just have to put the effort into making it work. Your future history is what you start to create when you use the see, hear, feel, think technique. When you start to shift, please go into the workbook and have a look at how that would work for you. See it, hear it, feel it, and think it. And now, if your goal is in line with everything else that you've been talking about, that you've been exploring with yourself, if you've got your mission, you're telling yourself the right stories, you're motivating yourself and making choices towards goals and targets that you are set as a smarter framework, you now have the ability to create a shift description of that goal, and you can have a future history. You need to go and do it now.